Hey guys, it's Graham. What's cracking? I always love getting a pre-order that comes in from Audible, although it can be frustrating if it's one that I'm really clocked in on and I know that the day is coming and I'm really excited for a book, but it doesn't automatically download at midnight. The thing is the servers aren't geographically synchronized to the user or whatever. It's midnight, but it's midnight according to Pacific time, and I'm in Central, so I got to wait until 2 a.m. And normally that wouldn't be a big deal, except I'm on the graveyard shift, and I have been for a while. So if I've got a book on pre-order and I don't get it right at midnight, I'm just going to be mad. This one though, I knew that it was coming on May 27th, but I just kind of forgot that today was May 27th. It was the 21st Walt Longmire mystery. There was a stretch in this series where a few of the books were like 3 stars, and that was fine, but they've been consistently 4 or above for, oh geez, I don't know, like 8 years now. I remember when I read The Western Star, which I believe is the 13th book in the series. That one blew my freaking mind, and they've just been better and better ever since. This book is called Return to Sender, and the premise is that a mail truck driver, mail, M-A-I-L, not stands up to P, a mail truck driver who is female goes missing. And in Wyoming, with how super rural and sparse and scattered everything is, she's got one of the biggest routes in the lower 48. It's over 300 miles long. Now, because Walt is the sheriff of a single fictional county in Wyoming, uh, there's got to be like an extenuating circumstance that calls him into this. In this case, it's that the woman who's missing is friends with a guy who is the cousin of Walt's late wife. So that's how he kind of gets roped into it as a favor. Walt ends up sort of going undercover by driving out to this place and finding her old mail truck for sale. The situation there is that it's like you can become a contractor, like you don't drive a USPS vehicle that entire time, like you have your own vehicle. And she had one that was old, but especially retrofitted and refurbished and stuff, and so it was easily identifiable, and it was sold about a month after she disappeared by her crappy boyfriend. And so Walt buys the car, or buys this mail truck, and starts snooping around undercover with his dog. He's got a dog named Dog. Everybody loves Dog. And it's just a little bit of like Walt driving around the Wyoming backcountry trying to find clues as to the nature of this missing woman's disappearance. Without giving too much away, and I assume that if you're a Longmire reader, you don't want spoilers, so subscribe to the channel and then get the heck out of here. No, it's cool. Come back whenever you want. There's a crazy cult involved, and there were pieces of the plot of this one that kind of echoed. I already forget the name of the book. Maybe it's Any Other Name. There was another book that had to deal with a fundamentalist break-off sect of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which was really interesting to me because I was like, oh, I want to see how he handles this one. And he did it with a really deft hand. He was great at portraying this thing in a way that was realistic about how these fundy break-off sects work, without just being denigrating, yeah, but this is the kind of thing all them crazy Mormons believe. No, he was really cool about how he handled all that. And in this same way, okay, this is just some made up sect, but it was all based on not sect, it wasn't a break off of any Christian denomination. It was okay, what the heck's going on here? A 4-way stop. Are we just going now? All right, screw it. It was a made up cult that was specifically targeting somewhat well off, we could even say wealthy, retired octogenarians whose children were out of their lives and they were kind of looking for meaning in their advanced age. And this guy was finding a way to basically pull well, if you pay enough money, the aliens will come take you away from Earth type thing. And he was really skilled and crafty at making that work. And so Walt had to get to the bottom of that, find out what the missing woman's connection was to it, and go from there. When I first heard the premise of this book, that it had to do with like one of the longest mail routes in the US, I thought that was a really, really cool premise, and it ended up being more of the jumping off point for this crazy cult type story, which was fine. Like, that was good on its own, but I've driven across Wyoming several times, especially for work, and in all my years of a trucker, I've seen some pretty like desolate and unoccupied corners of the country, and that kind of queued up my expectations for the book to be more about that. But I suppose it's hard to come up with a compelling read based on that subject. If you remember the Temeraire series, that's the Napoleonic Wars with Dragons, the 6th book in that series, Tongues of Serpents, was set in the outback of Australia. And it was written to express to you just how freaking big and unoccupied Australia is, because so much of it is desert. A significant portion of that book was pointless and boring. And you could easily write something about the unoccupied corners of Wyoming that accomplished the same thing. So I get why he wrote what he wrote. It was just I had an expectation going in, and I got something else out of it. But what came out of it was still good and exciting and entertaining in all the right ways. The last several times that I've gotten a Longmire book, it's like, oh yeah, I get a few hours of this familiar, comfortable thing that is reliably well executed. And Return to Sender was a return to form, although he's been on form since like 2016 with these. He's doing great. Other stuff that I have read and consumed lately, there was an audiobook collection of Louis L'Amour short stories, some of which I had read before and I didn't realize until I got to the end. I think there were 5 of them. This collection was just called Law of the Desert. The first 3 were new, and the last 2, I got about halfway through them and I was like, this sounds really familiar. So I finished that one, I was like, okay, yeah. And then the 5th one pops up, and I was like, yeah, I've definitely read this one, but I hadn't read the other 3. There are some like mixed and matched versions of these collections out there, and so sometimes that's just going to happen. But Louis L'Amour is another reliable read. It's like, okay, if I just pick up a couple of Louis L'Amour shorts, I'm always going to be in for a treat. It's funny though, like I said, I didn't remember that today was the 27th, so I didn't remember that today Return to Sender was coming. So I was listening to some Louis L'Amour stories, and right as that finished up, I got the alert. It's like, hey, your pre-order's available. It's like, oh shoot, we're doubling up on cowboy stuff today. Yeehaw. Last night before work, the wife had me watch another Doctor Who episode with her, and it was like, I don't remember the title of this one. The doctor has to solve a mystery at a school in London where like a whole bunch of the teachers have been replaced by aliens, and one of the curveballs in there is that a journalist catches up on what's going on, and it turns out that she was a previous companion of a previous doctor. And this is where it's good to watch the show with my wife, because she's able to explain all this stuff to me. Like, she's a big Doctor Who fan. It's the inverse of when I watch Smallville with her, and I'm able to explain stuff from the Superman comics to her that she's never read or had any interest in that. But it's like, yeah, but if you know this, like it fills this out and colors it more. All that stuff is well and good. My main takeaway from this episode is that, how people look at a movie that was made 20 years ago and they're like, oh, they could never make that today because there's something in it that is like culturally taboo or whatever. There's a bit of that in this early iteration of the Doctor Who revival. Some of it popped up in the Christopher Eccleston season. Now that we're in the David Tennant stuff, it's becoming more pronounced. And the angle is this. Rose is like 19 or 20. She's out of school. She had a job, but the job that she was working at, long story short, the doctor screwed it up. So she's unemployed, but when she finds out what he is and what he does, and he invites her to travel along with him and have adventures, she's all about that. Here's the problem. Rose has a boyfriend. His name is Mickey. And Mickey is like, whenever they stop back in at London, Mickey's always like mopey about like, oh, my girlfriend ran off with some other guy, and she's like, no, I'm still your girlfriend, but like then she'll ditch him for like a year and run off and go on and having adventures with the doctor. Like, whenever Mickey is in an episode, the episode is just a downer because it's just going to be him like moping and sucking all the time. And in this episode in particular, like Mickey was the one who called Rose and called the doctor because he found out about the teachers that were aliens, but he didn't know what to do about it. And so they bring him along to help for the adventure. And you can tell that like Rose is starting to fall more for the doctor, but she's not really like settling anything with Mickey, and she's just kind of being crappy towards him. And at the very end of this particular episode, Mickey was like, "Oh, I'd like to come along with you guys." And Rose was like, "Oh, yeah." Like she's obviously not excited about it. I told my wife, "Is like, Rose just kind of sucks as a character, and Mickey kind of sucks as a character too. Like he's just a simp, and he's not likable, and she sucks, and she's not likable. The different iterations of the Doctor are mostly likable." But it's just both of these characters are handled poorly. We'll see what comes of it in the end. Here's the main hook about why you couldn't do it today, though. 20 years ago, it wasn't even necessarily like advanced or subversive, but Rose is white and Mickey's black. And, they're in a perfectly good relationship when the season one, like when the premiere started. But as things go on, like she's constantly ducking out on her boyfriend to go run around with this other guy just because he's got a better car, time travel, and he can do cool things, time travel. So, okay, well, you supposedly got a boyfriend, but you're spending all of this time with this other dude. That just makes you a sucky person. And, whereas nowadays, like, they'd just be constantly talking about the fact that, Rose is in an interracial relationship and she's being white supremacist to her black boyfriend or something. Like, they couldn't do it now, but plot twist, they shouldn't have done it then either. She just sucks. Anyway, what's this guy doing parking in the road? Yeah, wave me on, buddy. Don't worry, I was already going to do that. But the writing continues to be kind of like Longmire in a sense. Like it's reliably entertaining. You're going to start an episode and there's going to be something weird going on, and you got to kind of track the clues, like what's this thing that they're fixing on? This is going to be important for later. How are they going to weave this all together? And it all comes into play at the end. You're like, cool, I liked how they set the table and then showed you what all this stuff meant in a way that was entertaining and moved along at a good clip. And it's nice to watch it with my wife because she can explain to me things about the other serious things that tie into whatever's going on now. Anyway, in short, good writing is fun to consume in various media. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys get back to it. Drive safe. See you out there.